Just plug these in, it should be good to go.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the WordPress Sydney meetup. We didn't have one last month because we've all been pretty busy. So thanks for joining us today. Leave a comment in the comments below the video. Let us know who's online, who's here with us. So let's see, there's some people already here. Gordon. Hey, Gordon, how you doing? And let's see. Oops, I just got rid of James. Sorry, James. Jonathan's here. Looking forward to this session. Should be a good one. Isabel, hi Isabel. Long time no catch up. Jean as well, thanks for joining in. Norman and Michelle as well. And I'm sure there'll be lots of other people who'll join in. So just leave a little comment down below and we'll try and say hi. But we've got quite a lot to cover in this session. Oh, John's on. John, hi John, and Risha. And
all right, I got my microphone connected. Hi guys.
Okay. Do you want to introduce yourself, James? Just give a little bit of background as to who you are.
Yep. So for those who haven't met me before, my name's James. I've been helping out at this meetup for when did I start, Will? I think 2015.
Yeah, around about then.
Quite some time now. Not as long as you. But yeah, I've been helping out at the meetup. Went to a few talks in 2015 and decided I'd muster up the courage to speak myself. Did my first ever presentation and I told Will that it was my first ever presentation about 5 minutes before we started, so that was good fun. And then from then, just been doing talks and sharing my knowledge with everyone over the last 5 years. It's been good. I work at Prosperity Media, which is an SEO agency in the city. I started there about a month ago after running my agency for so long, and decided that it was time to work for someone else and have a bit of less stress. So that's me.
Cool, thanks, James. Are you enjoying your new job?
It is fantastic. Best thing I've ever done. It's a really good team. We're working with some large, mid to large companies, and it's good to work on some more advanced stuff rather than smaller sites and things. So bigger teams, more stakeholders.
Yeah, sometimes it's good just to not be the boss. Sometimes let somebody else shirk the responsibility. Have all responsibility.
Exactly. Yeah, that's always. Well, I'm still actually doing my Creative Compass stuff on the side on the weekends and at nights, just finishing off all the projects I had. No, it's okay. They know. They know. No, they all know about it. Just trying to finish off all the projects that are still going on there. So yeah, it's good fun. Thanks, Isabel.
Yep. Myself. So I've been running the meetup since 2013, so a couple of years before James. Yep. So I'm a developer, WordPress consultant developer. Work on my own, so freelancing. I got a few clients on just now. I kind of went really quiet in February, obviously with the virus, but it seems to have picked up again, and there's a lot of people asking for a lot of WordPress work just now, which is great for us developers. Yep. So let us know if you guys have a lot of work or if you're pretty quiet just now. Okay. Well, today's topic is WordPress 5.5, which was released a couple of weeks ago, James, I think.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks, something like that.
It's broken a lot of my sites.
Yes, yeah, it's broken a lot of sites, and we'll probably chat a little bit about that later. So we had a lot of comments from people about WordPress 5.5 from clients as well, asking should I upgrade and all that sort of thing. So just want to go through some of the things that are in 5.5 because it is a humongous release tonight. And if you've got any questions throughout or at the end, we'll try our best to answer them. But before we get to that, oops, didn't want to do that. Before we get to that, please make sure you subscribe. Click the subscribe button down below and ding the bell if you're on YouTube. That would be great. That just lets you know when we're post a video next. And a quick shout out to our sponsors, our meetup sponsors. So Kinetics, WP Engine, Plesk, Microsoft, and of course WordPress as well, who pay all the meetup fees and help us run the meetup groups. Okay, let's get straight to it. Welcome to WordPress 5.5. So you might, if you have upgraded any websites, there's this great big yellow banner that tells you it's WordPress 5.5. They're not going for subtlety in this release, I don't think.
No.
No.
Definitely not.
Definitely
Speed,
not.
search, security. That's what it says.
Yeah, and we'll cover some of those topics tonight. So let's delve into the first one. So 5.5, as I say, it's a bit of an epic release. It is a point upgrade. So, 5.4 to 5.5. All the point releases are usually pretty significant. WordPress doesn't really do the 5 and then 6 and then 7. They just go up point releases. So 5.4 to 5.5, that is a huge update. And one of the biggest ones they put in is this new block directory. So on WordPress, WordPress.org, we can get the plugins and the themes. Well, now they've got a new block directory as well. So they are actually plugins, but they're called block plugins because that's the way you implement a block is through a plugin. Yep. So if you go onto WordPress.org and search through them, you can see all the blocks in there, and there's a little example of that one. Hopefully it's not too fuzzy for people to see. Let's have a look. But the great thing about 5.5 is it actually brings it in to. Can you guys see that full screen? Yeah. It actually brings it into the WordPress block editor. So when you're searching for your blocks, so the block directory is on the left-hand side of the slide here. And on the right-hand side, when you're searching for blocks, if you type in a name, it'll actually look through the block directory online and give some suggestions right within the editor. So here on the left-hand side, you've got something called Clapback, which I've searched in WordPress.org. And then I put the same entry into the block editor when I was editing a post, and it came up with a suggestion. And you can add it and activate it there and then within the editor. So they're trying to remove all these steps that you have to do before you can create a nice looking post. So I think that was a great thing.
That's pretty cool.
It is. It's really cool. And of course, if you're a developer and you know JavaScript, you can build your own blocks and publish them to the block directory, which is great. There's already hundreds and hundreds of blocks, and I reckon by the end of the next year, there's going to be like thousands of blocks. Blocks to do everything.
Hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands, millions. So yeah, that's a cool feature. I like that one. Next, we have block patterns. So when you choose a block in the editor, there's this other tab called patterns, and you click on that, and it shows you kind of groupings of blocks together. So really what they are, it's like a predefined block layout, just allowing users to quickly add kind of complex structures of nested blocks to their pages. And it's really meant to enable copywriters to quickly build and reuse like professional layouts. So like regular blocks, the patterns are searchable and they come organized into the following categories like text, hero for like a banner, your columns, so different column widths, buttons, galleries, testimonials, and I think they're uncategorized for everything else. Now, the number of patterns are pretty limited at the moment. I'm showing a couple on screen just now. You can see one on the left-hand side at the top is for buttons, so a 3-button column. The one below that's like a headline with a couple of columns of text. And then you've got like quotes on the right-hand side there. So it's fairly limited, but again, with the blocks, you're going to see these things grow more and more as people, define different types of layouts and save them. So definitely something to watch out for. And I think it's pretty cool to be able to drag in like a 3 nested column or like a gallery that looks a particular way. And again, it's just to kind of save you having to build it all yourself. So I think that's a really good addition to the editor there.
So it's like templates in Beaver Builder.
Yeah, like templates in the page builders there. Okay, next one. Block editor UI, user interface changes. I had to include this slide because it doesn't matter what point release or mini release for WordPress, there's always a block editor UI change, but this one is quite significant. And when you upgrade to 5.5, you'll find that the icons are different. They're probably in a different location. Some of them have changed functionality as well, and some have been renamed. So quite a big change in the user interface from there. A couple of really nice things though. When you're in the edit mode, if you go to preview, it now pops up a little list. You can see that as the first one on the right-hand side. And you can preview in desktop, tablet, or mobile, which is really nice. So you don't have to go into the inspect Chrome Inspector and then change all the settings there. So you can see how your layer is in those 3 different viewpoints there, which is really, really nice from within the editor. And another couple of things as well. There's lots of new pop-ups that come up telling you what the things are, which was great because in the previous versions of Gutenberg, some of the icons were a bit bizarre. You didn't really know what they were, so you just clicked on them to see what they did, which isn't the best user interface. So now they've got little tooltips that come up to tell you exactly what those things are. And there's extra things for extra block attributes as well. So one at the bottom there on the right-hand side, they sort of added colors and gradients to blocks now. So you can go absolutely crazy and give them whatever colors you like. And just lots of different attributes to all the different types of blocks as well. So definitely if you've been using the block editor, you want to go and just select a few of the blocks, the paragraph, the headline, and just have a look at the attributes and just see what's changed and what stuff's new there. Like, don't assume that what was there last week is there anymore. There's lots of new little goodies all over the place, too numerous to put on a slide here. So yeah, that is a great one. It's going to save people a lot of time, not having to jump into the customize and add CSS to do stuff. So yeah, that's good. Next, this one's pretty cool, and some of my clients are very excited about this one, and it's the Inline image editor. And what it allows you to do is you can resize to different dimensions, you can crop, you can zoom in and out, and you can rotate 90 degrees clockwise. Is that clockwise? Oh, wait, clockwise. That's really clockwise for me. And that's going to save people a heap of time, because a lot of my clients are always having to jump into Photoshop or an image editor and scale things up or down, move them around, twist them. So I think this inline editing is going to be a fantastic thumbs up for people who are really into Gutenberg editing.
Do you know if you can compress images there?
I don't think you can compress them. It's just resize.
Okay.
Crop.
So like the old WordPress image editor, where you have to go into the media library and edit the image there, they've moved it into the block editor. Yeah,
they've brought all that stuff straight into the block editor. So
that's cool.
It's really, really, really cool. Yeah, I really do like that, because I'm always having to resize stuff.
Yeah.
And scale stuff. So that's a really, real handy. So looking forward to using that one.
I mean, what would be cooler is if it automatically rescaled the images based on the viewport.
Oh, well, yeah, that would be nice. And also to bonk clients on the head when they upload megabyte images.
Yeah,
that would be
20.
awesome.
I think the biggest one I've seen was a 50 megabyte image uploaded or something, 20 or 50 megabytes.
Oh, I had one this week that was 6,000 by 3,000 pixels.
What was the file size on that?
It was about 76 megabytes.
Oh, wow. So that take about like
but this one
load.
This just crops and zoom things. Okay, next one. So there's a little bit of improved movement and navigation. You'll see that there's new up and down arrows, so you can move the blocks up and down really easily. But there's also, if you're a fan of grouping objects together, which is what the the patterns are. There's a little button now that allows you to select the parent, the actual group itself, which is great, because the last couple of releases of WordPress have been an absolute nightmare to try and select the actual parent rather than the actual blocks themselves. So now there is a button, you click on it and it does highlight the actual parent, so you can go and change the attributes and actually move the whole group up and down rather than annoyingly moving single blocks up and down out of the group.
That is
and just overall, there's been like a lot of improvement in the drag and drop. Some of it I felt was still a bit buggy when you're moving things around. You know, the highlight, the areas where you drop them into weren't coming up properly, but that seems to have been resolved a lot better now. So yeah, that's really, really good. Let's see, got a couple of images here. Judith.
Should we take a break? Let's talk about these.
Yeah, some great improvements. Question: have people surrendered page builders for Gutenberg? I'll let James, I'll let you answer that one.
Okay, good, because I want to. So I don't think people have yet. And the reason for that is because page builders have kind of stopped being page builders over the last year, 2 years, 3 years. And they're now more theme builders. So I know when I'm building a website, and I think Will does this too now with Beaver Builder, I can build a theme layout like for a blog post. So I can make a Beaver Builder layout and say, this is where the title of the post goes. This is where the content of the post goes. This is where the comments go. And when then I give it to my clients, and then they use Gutenberg side by side. So they go in and create their post in the block editor, and then that shows inside the Beaver theme layout that I've created. And there's a lot of like Divi now supports that. Elementor does. So yeah, I don't think it's happened just yet, but I think it's on the way. Maybe when the block editor starts being more of a theme builder itself, maybe that's when we'll see that happening. But that could be years off. I don't know when. When do you think that will happen, Will?
Sooner than you believe. 5.6 already has some stuff in there, so we'll look at that towards the end. But yeah, I don't think Gutenberg is going to replace page builders for a while, for those reasons that you say, James, because all these page builders are now like whole site builders rather than just pages. So yeah, it's a great question, Judith. John, so the images stay the same file size? They do. You do. So if someone uploads 100 megabyte file size, you can crop it and rotate it, but yeah, the image file size will stay the same. Well, I guess if you crop it, some of the thumbnails will reduce a little bit, but
yeah.
Oh, Judith likes
Builder Themer. Yes, it's definitely one of the better ones out there.
Yeah.
Very. I had a good way to describe the difference between Elementor users and Beaver Builder users the other way. Elementor users are like it has lots of flashy features and lots of users, so it's good for designers. And Beaver Builder is good for people who were traditional coders and are now building websites with Beaver Builder for speed, because it's more secure and more reliable.
Yeah,
more safe.
Daniel, did Automatic look into buying one of the popular page builders like Elementor and just working that into WordPress? And I'm not sure. I don't think they have approached anything, at least.
I'm sure they've considered it, though.
I'm sure they considered it, yeah. But not to my knowledge. So for those that don't know, Automatic's the company behind WordPress, the actual application itself. All right, acquiring, not buying. Yeah, they've went on a bit of a spree over the last couple of years, buying up smaller companies. Well, bigger companies as well, I guess. But yeah, for the page builder ones, not as far as I'm aware. One for you, James.
Didn't I do one recently? Or was that last year? This year has gone so fast. I honestly have no idea where this year's gone. I think I can. I do have a presentation that I'm doing next month, October 6th. This is a shout out for another group, Melbourne SEO. I'm doing a talk there on how to create silo structures in WordPress using custom post types. So kind of like the foundation before then going on to using Beaver Theme and to create layouts for that. So I'd really recommend checking that talk out, October 6th. Okay. I'll post about it on LinkedIn if you guys add me, you can stay up to date. But just go to the Melbourne SEO group. And then maybe after I do that talk, maybe I can do the theme one next month.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah. We'll see if we can.
No, the month after. It'll have to be October.
The month after, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's Michelle. She'd like to see that one too. So cool. Okay, let's get back into other stuff.
Yes, so this is my turn.
Your turn, James.
Let me just bring up my notes. Okay, so auto update plugins. There was actually already auto updates in WordPress built into WordPress, but you needed to use like a PHP snippet inside the WP config file. So it wasn't really user friendly. It wasn't. It was mainly for developers and hosts to enable that. So now there's a front end interface where you can enable auto updates. I have just used WordPress 5.5 today for the first time because I tried using it a week ago and it broke my site, so I reverted back. So I haven't yet tested this out, but I think it would be good to keep plugins up to date. But I think one thing you have to remember is, especially if you have a lot of plugins, you really need to be careful with this feature. Don't just go enable it for all your plugins because your site's probably going to break. You need to be careful, especially if you've got WooCommerce installed, then I would definitely not use this feature at all. Mainly because WooCommerce is such a big plugin, but when it's so limited that you normally install maybe like 20 other plugins, in some cases I've seen, on top of that extend WooCommerce. And that's when you really run into issues because while maybe WooCommerce is staying up to date, it might not be that the extensions on top of that and all these plugins are compatible with each other. So you've got to be careful with that. What I'd recommend doing, and this is what I've set up already, is just install it on a few plugins you trust. So Akismet there, anti-spam, I don't think that's going to break other plugins, so I'd go and enable it on that. The second plugin there, Google Analytics by Monster Insights, I probably wouldn't enable auto updates on that one, and just because it's a bit of a bigger plugin, but it might be safe, and you just got to test that out. So next slide, Will. I don't have control of the slides. Now it's also available for themes, and to get to the theme interface, you actually have to go into themes and then click on the theme, and then it shows up there. Where in the plugins interface, it's just right there to enable it. And I think that's pretty good because a lot of time I've seen sites stay up to date with their plugins, and that's because WordPress has a little annoying orange circle there. But because themes is hidden under appearance themes, often people forget to update their themes, and I've seen sites break because of that. So that's a good one. Yoast, I'm not going to comment on Yoast. I don't use it. I don't think it's probably safe. I don't think they really run into any issues. But you're just allowing them to put more advertising in your face. So yeah. Next, so this one's cool, and this one I think you would like this as well. It's really annoying when you don't have access to the file structure of the website, so you don't have like an SFTP login, or if you're on a cPanel, you need to log into the file manager, and then you got to delete the files, and it deletes them one by one. It's really annoying. So what this does is that, let's say you have a new version of a plugin, or a plugin's like someone sent you a zip file of the plugin, and the plugin doesn't really support one-click updates. What you can do is just go into the WordPress dashboard, upload a plugin, and install your plugin like it's a new plugin. And what it will do is go to the next screen. Well, there we go. So it shows you, it says, hey, this theme's already installed. This is the version that you've currently got installed. And this is what you're going to upload. Do you want to overwrite it, or do you want to go back? So that's really good, because not only, like as I mentioned before, it's good if the plugin doesn't support auto updates, but often if a plugin breaks or there's something gone wrong with the plugin and you need to deactivate it, and the only way to fix it is to delete the plugin and upload the new version, because you can't use the auto update feature or the one-click update feature. That's a really handy feature. So it will just delete the old one and install the new one.
I agree with that, and I think this is one of the long overdue updates, because there's a whole heap of premium plugins that you buy that don't auto update, and you just get a notification that there's a new version. You have to download them, like Code Canyon, things like that.
Yeah,
and you get it as a zip file. So
yeah.
I think it's
and also this I know it says plugin there, but it also works with themes. So you can also do things.
Absolutely, Belinda. Next slide.
Yes. All right. So this one is, I guess, where WordPress is saying the speed part of the update comes from. So I'm not really sure if many of you know what lazy loading is, so I'll just explain that quickly. Essentially what it does is, if you load a website, maybe you've heard of above the fold as a term that's been thrown around. What it means is that when your site loads, if you have no images above the fold, which just means at the top of the website in your view, then what currently happens is, if you don't have lazy loading enabled, it loads all the images on your page, even if you have 50, 100, 200, 1,000 images, I hope not, on your page. And what this does is, as you scroll, the image comes into view and then loads. So it's really good for speed. So let's say if you had a gallery on your website, it only loads the first 6 or 3 images at a time, and as you scroll, it keeps loading those on the fly. So it's really good. And this is default in WordPress now. So it automatically adds lazy loading to all images, which is awesome. I don't even think you need to configure it. Normally, if you wanted to do this before, you'd need to install a plugin like WP Rocket and enable that yourself, which, I mean, I would still recommend installing a plugin like that, because images, while they're the biggest part of a site, there's often like JavaScript and CSS files that you want to try and minify and compress to make your site load even faster. But I think it's I was reading on the Search Engine Journal website that it's good, because there's a lot of smaller servers which might struggle to load these because they're restricted, and it will help with that, and you'll get more performance out of your site and less data for end users as well. So that's really good.
So this used to be in, or still is in, Jetpack, and I'm fairly sure that code's just been pulled out of Jetpack to be put into the core.
Maybe they're realizing no one uses Jetpack, and Jetpack is a virus, and they'd like to move it into core. I should note as well, by the way, this works on all modern web browsers, but I believe it doesn't work on Safari, which is my main browser, unfortunately.
Okay. And of course, it won't work on any browsers that you've disabled JavaScript on, like
that's correct,
like Brave.
Yeah.
There is another comment coming through. I can see it on YouTube, so I'm just waiting for it to sync, and then I'll put it up. Here we go.
I haven't tested it enough to work that out, but I don't think there would be, especially if caching plugins update for WordPress 5.5. They'll support that.
Yeah.
So just check when you install a plugin, just check to see if it's compatible with WordPress 5.5. So if you've got WP Rocket, it will say which version of WordPress it's compatible or being tested with.
Yeah, I would think that'd be an issue, not for WordPress. Okay, next one. XML sitemaps.
All right. So as a SEO. I've got a lot to talk about this one. So just for the people who don't know what a sitemap is, a sitemap is essentially a page on your website. When I say page, it's not really a page like in the page editor, but it's a hidden page on your website, which is for search engines to see. And essentially all it is a tree map of all of the pages on your website. And what that's saying to Google is, hey, this is my sitemap. This is what my site is about. Please go here. And Google will say, okay, thanks for that. I'm going to ignore your sitemap and crawl your website anyway. But it's a good indication of what you want your site to be about. So the thing with this is built into WordPress 5.5 now. And if you go to /wp-sitemap.xml, as you can see up the top there, top right of the screen, you can, after you upgrade, you can see that straight away, and that's what it looks like there. The thing with this one is you can actually have 50,000 sitemaps installed. Is that correct? Yes, 50,000, just checking my notes. And a single sitemap can hold 2,000 entries. So that is a lot of pages. What's that, 100 million or something?
Big site.
Yeah. Now, I can't remember off the top of my head what, there's a limit that Google doesn't crawl your sitemap after. I can't remember. I think it must be 2,000 pages, or maybe it's 5,000 pages. I can't remember. I need to check that stat. But yeah, you can break them up if you've got too many pages in one thing anyway. If you've got more than 2,000 blogs, which can happen on a few sites. The thing with this one is you need to be careful if your host supports it, because not all you need to check with your hosting company. Do you support simple XML? It must use the simple XML PHP extension, which you need to check with your hosting company. I think most hosts support it anyway. I know GoDaddy does, which is a lot of sites, unfortunately. And yeah, it won't function without it. So just to answer Judy's question there, Will, if you go to my site, like you see up the top of the screen there, mysite.com/wp-sitemap.xml. Now, you might already have Yoast installed. That seems to be a popular one. SEO Press is a good one as well, all-in-one SEO. A lot of these SEO plugins already have sitemaps, and the good thing about these plugins, which the WordPress sitemap doesn't do, I guess because it's so new, is that you can't actually choose what you want in the sitemap very easily, unless you have an extension and you can write PHP code to do it. And that's a problem, especially from an SEO perspective. Often when you install themes, they come pre-built with like a portfolio post type. They might have author archives enabled. They might have user archives enabled. And that's a problem because you're essentially telling Google, I want to put this content out on the website, out on the internet, and you can't even control if you want that indexed or not. What I'd recommend for a site from an SEO perspective is just enabling the things that you want to be indexed and put that in the sitemap. So I know this is, while WordPress think they're doing good here, it's actually going to create a lot of SEO problems, I think, and orphan pages and different things like that. So you really need to be careful with that. And one thing this doesn't actually support is it doesn't support image sitemaps. It doesn't support video sitemaps. It doesn't support Google News sitemaps. So I'd recommend using an SEO plugin for that and just ignoring the WordPress sitemap for now. I do believe as well that so the way this XML sitemap was made is it's made to be extensible. So you might see now SEO plugins, instead of using their own sitemap, they'll now support WordPress sitemap, and and build on top of their one instead of using their own one. So you might even see new plugins pop up just around this. I think that covers everything in my notes. Yes, it does. So, yeah.
I think what you'll see with Gutenberg, because Gutenberg isn't just the editor, it's the project to make WordPress better.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see as more features come out with WordPress, I think you're going to see people build on top of what they're doing in core, because it's going to be faster, more efficient to do it. So yeah, I think you're right, James. I think, people like Yoast, SEO Press might even just start adding on to this if it's there already, which it is going to be enabled.
Exactly. Yeah. SEO Press is the one that I use across all sites now. The only reason for that is the Pro Yoast free is fine. They do bug the hell out of you to try and upgrade to the Pro version with advertisements everywhere, which is kind of why then I was like, okay, let me look into this Pro version, and I found out it's $80 for one site just for the Pro version, and then it doesn't include WooCommerce SEO, and you need to spend another $49 on that, and it doesn't include local SEO, so you need to spend another $49 on that, and then there's some other ones as well, news sites. So then I found SEO Press, which I think is $39 US for every single Yoast plugin included in one plugin for unlimited sites, where the Yoast one was that cost for just one site. So I was like, it was a no-brainer. I just moved to them, and their site's a lot cleaner and a bit easier to use. And one thing I like about SEO Press actually is when you first use it, they've got like a checklist of things you need to do to make your site ready and technically sound from an SEO perspective. So SEO Press is it's a yes from me for that one.
Yep, I've moved over to SEO Press.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. Just because of all the annoying Yoast snags about upgrading, and they've got this new thing, and all the colors, man, the colors are
the colors. Well, one thing actually, I guess, was a problem for me with Yoast is that from an SEO point of view, if I write some content and I upload it to the website, the Yoast thinks that my SEO content is crap. It's like the traffic light system says it's like a 0, even though I've spent all this time and I know this content that I've written will rank. And then I upload it on a site and the client's like, Yoast, it says it's bad content. I'm like, yeah, but Yoast doesn't know anything about content. So yeah, that's the problem.
Okay, we've got a couple of extra stuff around this particular subject there. So John says he always creates a sitemap, but not as important now.
Yeah, as I said earlier, yeah, it's I think it's good to have and good to submit. I think for a new site, it's good to get a site kind of going quickly by creating a sitemap, logging into Google Search Console, and requesting your site to be indexed from a sitemap. That's good, especially if you release new content. It's kind of, or your site's brand new. That's good from a good perspective, because sites aren't static, especially WordPress sites. They're always changing.
Yeah. Here's a good question from Judith. I don't actually know the answer to this. Do you?
No, I don't believe you do.
There'll be a filter.
I don't think you can even turn it off. That's one thing I didn't check. And that's why I was saying as well, it's going to create a problem, because the site I tested that on, let me double check that right now for you. So I've currently got the site. I know you can't see my screen, but let me check this. So the sitemap is working. Let me install my SEO plugin. Let me activate, SEO Press, and see if it turns off the XML sitemap. I would hope so. I don't even have it installed, but that's not very useful.
We'll find out, and we'll post the result on the meetup page.
I would think that if an SEO plugin supports 5.5, it would turn off the sitemap. And I'll need to look into that, but there could be maybe a WP config filter that disables it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I would think a function that'll allow you to turn off.
But yeah, you're right. You need to be sure, because if you've got two different sitemaps, and the Yoast sitemap or the SEOpress sitemap, you've pruned out all of the author archives and like the page builder templates, because often they like to sneak in. And then you've also got this other one from WordPress that's going to be a problem.
So John says
messages.
Rank Math, which is I've heard of. It seems
I've heard of Rank Math. I've heard some good things about it. They seem to be made by SEOs. So yeah.
And Misty Miapus, he's moved to SEO Framework as well.
Yeah, that's an old one, SEO Framework.
Yoast, because there's some good competitors on the market.
There is.
But just before we leave this topic, one last question on this topic from Joe.
Yeah, so I was like trying. If you use SEOpress, do you need XML sitemaps too? So XML sitemaps is a feature of SEOpress. It's all, I think all SEO plugins should include it in their plugins. If they don't, I guess it's not really an SEO plugin. So yeah, SEOpress have their own version of an XML sitemap. And if SEOpress have updated their plugin for WordPress 5.5, then I would assume it automatically disables the WordPress one. Yeah,
I think so too. Okay, let's leave SEO for another date.
After this is my last slide, and then I think, Will, you're talking a bit more. So while you're talking, Will, I'll investigate those questions and I'll come back at the end. Yes, so the Dash icon library update. So with 5.5, they've added, I think there were 71 new Dash icons. I just included a snippet of them there. There's some database ones, there's some block editor ones. I think there's a few more. If you just Google WordPress 5.5 Dash icons, you can see all the new ones there. Sad news, this is the last ever Dash icon library update. There won't be any more Dash icons. Yeah, Will's crying there. And then it won't be supported anymore. Do you know if it will be removed from WordPress, Will, in the future? Or are they going to keep it?
I don't know. There's still debates as to what they're going to do to replace it.
Yeah, maybe they're going to replace it with like a dedicated WordPress icon font type thing. I'm not really sure what they're going to do.
Yeah, there's talk over either replacing it with like a Font Awesome type font.
Yeah.
But then people have said, well, that can get quite large, so there could be some performance issues. So then they went back to single characters. So yeah, we don't know. It's still up in the air just now. So I think Dash, call it Dash Icon. I call it Dashicon. I think they'll be around for a little while longer, I reckon.
Dashicon, isn't it? I don't know which. Well, I'm assuming Dash stands for WordPress dashboard, and then icon stands for icon. Dash icon. I don't know. That's what I assumed. Yeah.
Okay.
So do you know if Dash icons or Dashicons, do you know if they're SVGs?
I'm not sure.
Like it's one giant SVG file, and then they like a CSS map.
Yeah, I think big sprite. I think they call them sprites.
Yeah, sprites. That's the word. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
So you only load one file, one request to the browser,
which is good for performance, but then it kind of sucks when you're trying to move this big thing all around all the time.
Well, I think that's why they want to discontinue it, because it's getting to a big file now, isn't it? Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, while you're talking about the next few slides, I'm going to investigate this SEO issue.
Awesome. Cool. I'll just put you on mute for a second there. All right. Okay, so these slides are more kind of developer stuff. There's a question. Judy says, what are they used for? Dash icons.
So they're used, if you go into WordPress, which I believe there's another slide there, Will, with the WordPress left sidebar somewhere. If you go into WordPress, there's these icons on the left-hand side Will's looking for. There it is. So see those icons on the left there of the screen where it's dashboard, posts, media? they're essentially icons used around WordPress, and they've created their own icons and have put them into one file in WordPress. There's also other places you can find it. So if you're inside the old tiny MCE editor, which is now called the classic editor in WordPress, there's like all the icons for like left justifying a text, center justifying a text, right justifying a text. So just things like that. Icons around WordPress.
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Judy. Thanks, James. Okay. Okay, so goodies for developers and designers. There's a whole heap of stuff under the hood for WordPress. So I'm not going to talk about this too much. Just want to note them down just so you're aware of them. And so there's a cool feature that allows you to pass arguments to and from template files, which is great. So if you're a theme designer, then you can actually start passing arguments into those different templates that allow you to build up the WordPress page templates. So things like content dash, page name, all that sort of things, you can pass arguments to them, which is fantastic. You don't have to rely on global variables, or what a lot of people do is write to the database, which of course slows things down. So that is great for theme developers, that one there. Default terms for custom taxonomies. If you don't know what a taxonomy is, it's a collection of things. So in WordPress, there's two default taxonomies. One is called categories, another one is called tags. But with WordPress, if you're a developer, it allows you to create other taxonomies as well. So for example, if you've got books, you can create like a books taxonomy. You can create taxonomies for different types like sci-fi, fiction, all that sort of thing. So like collections and groupings. And this little thing just allows you to set a default term. So for example, in WordPress for the category taxonomy, uncategorized is the default one. And you can hover over other categories and set that one as a default. But you couldn't do that with your custom taxonomies that you created. But with 5.5, you can, which is nice. So rather than just use the first one, you can set a default term for that, which is really good. They've updated a whole heap of libraries as well. Probably the most significant one is PHP Mailer. It was quite outdated, so it's been bumped up quite a few versions. So hopefully that will help with mailing out from WordPress. I know that's a big topic. I've covered that in one of my quickies. I have had lots of requests from previous clients where emails just kind of go missing or they're misformatted properly. So this new update for PHP Mailer will hopefully resolve a whole heap of those. SimplePy has been a big update for that one. So SimplePy is your RSS feed. So I know a lot of people probably don't use RSS as much anymore, but SimplePy is the library that grabs links and stuff from other sites and allows you to display it as an RSS feed within there, and heaps more. So there's lots and lots of libraries that have been updated, but PHP Mailer is probably the biggest one out of that whole lot. The big update for WordPress 5.5, and the one that everyone kind of noticed, was the removal of a library called jQuery Migrate. Now, jQuery is quite old now. It's definitely showing its age. It's probably about 10 years old now. And there's been different versions of jQuery over the years. And the little library called Migrate allows people to run old code in the new version, basically. So WordPress decided, or Automatic decided, to remove that for 5.5. And yeah, it was in the news quite a bit that it broke a couple of sites, shall we say. So they quickly released a plugin that would replace that jQuery Migrate library. So you can add it back in. And they noted that a couple of days after that plugin was released, and it was just released like the day after WordPress 5.5. So a couple of days after that, then they noticed that particular plugin, the jQuery Migrate, had been downloaded over 10,000 times. So they came to the conclusion that WordPress 5.5 broke over 10,000 websites. And that was the kind of headline that went around some of the technical websites. Now, it's not really true that WordPress broke it. They removed this library because it's like yonks old. It's so old. So when they removed it, it only really broke the sites for people who haven't updated plugins and themes for like 5 or 6 years. So I think it was a good thing, because it's actually forced people to update their themes and plugins, which is great for security, I think. So although it's a bit of an inconvenience for some people, I think overall it was probably needed, long overdue, I think, to force people to update. Another little thing for auto updates that James talked about. So if you're a developer, you can now programmatically tell your plugin and others to automatically update. So if you want to create like an interface to allow people to control auto updates for themes and plugins, you've certainly got that control in the back end if you're a developer, which is great. Last slide for developer and designer goodies. So there's better PHP compatibility checks. So what that means is WordPress itself will look and make sure that the code is okay, and it'll try and warn you before it goes to a white screen. So better checks for that. One that I'm quite excited about as a developer is define environments. So now WordPress allows you to set up environment variables for, say, your local machine or development or staging or production. And that means, as from a developer's point of view, you can change code depending on what environment you're in. So if you're in a development or staging environment, you might want to switch off some caching plugins. If you're on a local site, you might want to disable things like updates to Jetpack and things like that. So I think that's great. It really gives you kind of more control over the different environments, and yeah, it's definitely a welcome addition. And if you're using the WordPress REST API, the REST API, if you don't know, that's just a way to grab information, to suck information out of WordPress so you can use it in a different application. There's new endpoints, so new ways of getting the new data and new features that have been updated in 5.5. So things like blocks, plugins, the block directory and images, so you can get new information out of WordPress from that. And if you guys might not know this, but there's a little function in WordPress that's called redirect guest 404 permalink. And what happens is if you type in your website and you mistype a page, just say you've got a page called food and you type in FOOOD, then this little function actually runs and it has a look in your website for any pages or links that's kind of similar to what you've typed in, rather than just show a 404 error page not found. So this function has been updated, and you've got more control over how it tries to guess what is the page before it then jumps to a 404 error. So if you're a developer, you might want to have a quick look at that just to see what extra stuff is there.
Is that a new feature?
That has been in WordPress for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, because I remember a while back I was like, "Will, what is this site doing? Please help me with the category category pages." Yeah. Yeah, I was like, "What? Why is this working?" That was a few
John,
years ago
yes,
now.
Some people do need to update their libraries an awful lot. There's an awful lot of old sites out there. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so that's really it for 5.5. We've kind of covered the big updates. It's a huge update. Lots of things under the hood, lots of things visually as well. So we tried to outline some of the major features there. But
yeah, we usually don't do a whole meetup on one update. It's usually just a quick note at the beginning. Hey, WordPress 4.3 has been released. It's got this thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, of course, Automatic are not stopping there. So they've already got a scope out for WordPress 5.6. Everyone's excited because it's an all-female crew. So it's all females that are on the lead team for this, which is great. But yeah, so they've released a little bit of a scope, and I've got a couple of links there that you can have a look at. So down the bottom is a wish list. So if you've got something you'd really like to go into WordPress 5.6, go to that link there and just add a comment. And the developers will look through, and if there's a big enough consensus, a big enough weight there, then they might consider putting that in 5.6. And the post at the bottom is just a link to what we've been talking about, which is the 5.6 scope, this kind of document here. So I've taken a little snippet out of that document there, which just really outlines the scope of 5.6. And remember, we were talking a little bit about page builders earlier on. And there's a question about whether Gutenberg would replace page builders. Well, if you have a look down here, you can see things like navigation menus as blocks in core, block editor upgrades, widgets editing in a customizer as block. So yeah, I think we're going to start to see more stuff being blocked, and it's going to creep out from the page and the post into WordPress itself. So I don't think it'll ever get as fine detailed as Beaver or Elementor yet, but certainly it's breaking out of the scope of the posts and pages and into WordPress, all the different components of WordPress. So it's going to be exciting to see navigation blocks and widget blocks as well. So yeah, so some of the stuff there you can see, the one that third from the bottom, default theme, including an FSE, full screen editing compatible version. So full screen editing, which will be quite cool. I don't know exactly what that means. And of course, PHP 8 support. So PHP 8 is coming in November, I think. So that's going to be a huge change as well, and it'll increase the speed of your website.
What does ship public beta of full site editing mean? The last one there.
Yeah, sorry, not full screen, full site editing. So this is where they're trying to break this Gutenberg out of the posts and pages.
Yeah.
All the different bits that make up WordPress, like your menus, your widgets, your header, your footer, they're probably going to be blocks. They're looking to get that as a block so you can edit them. So it's
cool.
Break out and kind of be a full editor, but not with bells and whistles like Elementor.
Yeah.
Quick question from Judith. She read in a forum today that people shouldn't update yet and should wait until 5.51. Yep. There is if you search for in WordPress .org, then you'll for 5.5.1. In fact, no, actually, it's in Track. Track's the internal bug tracking system that WordPress automatic uses. So there's still about 30 outstanding issues for WordPress 5.5 that they're still working on. And there's been about 50 or 60 already closed. So 5.5 has broken quite a lot of stuff so far. So
a lot of stuff.
yeah, there's a lot of fixes out. So I would probably wait until 5.5.1 is released before you update your production servers. That's definitely what I'm doing.
And not even that, like sure, WordPress is updating a lot of things that they've broken, but all the other plugins and themes as well, you have to be careful of that, because I know that Beaver Builder and Elementor have been having a lot of issues with this update, and they've been releasing hot fixes, but then third-party plugins still aren't working. So I would hold off if you're, instead of just saying, I'm going to wait till 5.5.1, if you're confident that the plugins and themes you have installed all say compatible with 5.5, then there's no problem with updating. Yep,
I agree. Saying that, Gene, yes, one of my clients decided to bite the bullet and they upgraded themselves to 5.5, and then they couldn't edit their site because Elementor wouldn't work for there. So yes, I had to upgrade to 5.4 whatever it was. And yes, that worked fine. So I just uploaded the WordPress zip and it overwrote all the files. So yeah, that worked quite nicely and reverted back. And I gave them a bit.
That's pretty easy to do if you do run into any issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just Google how to downgrade WordPress. There's a lot of guides online about it.
Yeah. Judith, yep, the redirect guess function is quite cool. It definitely saves a lot of 404 errors in trying to guess the right place. But sometimes it gets a little bit confusing. If you type in one thing and something else comes up, and you're like, what? Where did that come from?
I've never actually seen it work on pages. I've only seen it work on category pages.
Well, maybe that new fine controlled.
Maybe, yeah.
Way to change that. Yeah. So you guys, if you got any other questions, pop them down.
Well, do you want to hear my findings on this? So what I did was I read through the release notes for SEO Press and Yoast, and it is true. If you do have a compatible version of SEO Press or Yoast, it disables the sitemap, and I tested it myself. If you view the old sitemap page, it strangely takes you to another page with the same name as the URL. So it doesn't redirect you back to the home page. So it took me to, instead of going to /wp-sitemap.xml, it added a / to the end of it, and it took me to a page, wp-sitemap.xml, and it has some posts on it. So I have no idea why it does that. And I would be careful about upgrading that because it takes you to some page that doesn't even exist. But in doing that, I was actually reading through the SEO Press release notes. Holy bleep, they've released a lot of features in the last 2 updates. Like, it's worth checking out and having a read through them. There's like 20 new features in 3.9 in SEO Press, and then in 3.8.8, which is the one that's compatible with WordPress 5.5, like they've got enhanced e-commerce because SEO Press Pro has Google Analytics. They now have enhanced e-commerce so you can measure purchases, additions, and removals from shopping carts, which previously you needed to buy like Monster Insights, and that's like $300 or something. So it's built into SEO Press now. You can export redirections for a htaccess file. There's an option to add no index to archive pages. I saw that it also does rewrites for Nginx servers now. So if you have an Nginx server, it's built into SEO Press. It does the rewrites for you. So there's a lot of features here. Yeah. 3.8.8 was there's just too many to even. Yeah, so it refactors the robots.txt, so you don't need to add rewrite rules for Nginx servers.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Joe, you got a plugin WP downgrade? Yep, that works as well. So if you don't have access to the file system, then yeah, you can use plugins to downgrade. Or,
that is if your WordPress is working.
Yeah.
Because usually if you need to downgrade, your WordPress doesn't usually work.
And if you're comfortable with using command lines, you can use WP CLI as well. So you can actually download specific versions of the core from the command line, and it will just download the files, which is nice.
Are there any other questions?
I don't think so. None have come through from YouTube that I can see. So it's just over an hour. So I think that's been pretty good, guys. If you've got any other questions, then please leave them down below. But otherwise, I think we call it a night.
Yeah. If you have any other questions for Will or myself, you can hit us up on LinkedIn. I think it's good for me. Is that good for you as well, Will?
LinkedIn is probably the best.
Yeah. But don't be one of those people who just add me and then ask to get if I want to buy their service or guest post.
So a shameless plug. So I'm doing my WP Quickies series on Thursdays at 1 p.m. So I should put it on the screen, shouldn't I? So my WP Quickies series every Thursday, 1 p.m. Sydney time. So tomorrow I'm doing WooCommerce Basics, which you'll have to write the slides for tonight because I thought I was talking about WooCommerce best plugins, so I spent all day yesterday writing that slide. So I'll have to do these ones tonight. But fun. Join me at lunchtime if you've got some spare time for one of that.
Yeah, shameless plug from me. I don't have a slide for it, but on October 6th, I'll be speaking at Melbourne SEO, which is an online group as well. And maybe I'll do a shout out on the WordPress Sydney one as well, since it's also a free group. And I'll be talking about WordPress. I'm doing a deep dive into WordPress custom post types for setting up silo structures. That's an SEO talk.
Cool. Yeah, well, I hope that talk goes well, and be look forward to tuning in on that one. And yeah, we should get a page builder, an element, beaver builder one from you.
After that, following on from that, I think it should be good.
Oh, here's
what topic are we doing next month, Will?
Not sure. Yeah.
Suggestions, everyone. Leave it in the comments.
Any way of using the same username and password credentials to log in a forum created with BuddyPress and BBPress and automatically granted access to another password protected page? Not sure. Not sure what you mean by that. I think that's probably a technical discussion that we should take offline.
Oh, I know what that means. So that's Restrict Content Pro. Use that plugin. So usually a password protected page on WordPress doesn't usually relate to someone signing in. It's just this page is password protected. But if you check out the plugin Restrict Content Pro, then you can have like a login and say this page is available to users with this user role once they log in.
There you go. Hopefully that answers your question, John.
Pop it up on the screen.
Cool.
There we go.
Great. Yeah, Restrict Content Pro, that one.
Yep.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, guys. Well, thanks, James, for your time tonight.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in.
Yeah, it's been good. And yeah, if you have a particular subject you'd like us to cover next month, then yeah, please leave it in the comments below, or just like send it to one of us on LinkedIn or Twitter, or leave it on the meetup page somewhere. We'll find it.
Yeah. Don't forget to like our Facebook page as well, and Facebook group.
Yeah, and join Slack as well, because we're all on Slack. Yeah,
Slack is good.
I thought I did have slides for banners for stuff, but there we go, Slack. So join us on Slack. So if you go to wpaustralia.org/Slack, it'll tell you how to log in to our Slack group. Yeah, so definitely hit us up on there. I don't think I have a Facebook banner, but I've got Twitter here, so you can contact us on Twitter as well. Okay, guys, thanks very much for tonight, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Keep an eye out on meetup.com/WordPress-Sydney, and we'll let you know when the next big meetup will take place. So, good night.
See you, everyone.